Oregon Governor Tina Kotek released figures this week showing that federal cuts under the president's big, beautiful bill could cost Oregon billions of dollars over the next several years. It's something that Oregon Congresswoman Andrea Salinas has been talking about for months now, especially when it comes to cuts to food assistance and SNAP benefits. Congresswoman Salinas represents Oregon's 6th Congressional District, which encompasses all of Polk and Yamhill counties, as well as parts of Clackamas, Washington, and Marion counties, including the state capital of Salem. She's the daughter of a Mexican immigrant, and much of her district is agricultural, including Oregon wine country. Congresswoman Salinas, welcome back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, last week, according to Oregon for All, an immigrants' rights group, ICE arrested a group of Guatemalan farm workers who were headed to pick berries in Woodburn, which is in your district as well. Right. What's your take on what's happening there and what's happening overall with these ICE raids?
What is happening right now is hurting Oregon agriculture, plain and simple. You know, we know so many people in the Valley, our friends, neighbors, community members, who did the same thing my family did, right? They came here for a better life, to work really hard, to figure out how they could become part of the American prosperity and the future of America. And so when these folks who are working their tails off right now, right, we're in harvest for some of our crops, and we'll be going into harvest for wine grapes here soon, are rounded up and detained because sometimes for the color of their skin. I mean, we're talking people sometimes who are being targeted and racially profiled, who have green cards, who are here legally. But right now, ICE doesn't care. And so it's hurting our economies, it's hurting agriculture, it's hurting our restaurants, our hospitality industry, it's hurting a lot of areas because folks are afraid. And it's hurting some of our children. In Beaverton, we saw a man get arrested when he was dropping off his child at daycare. To see that as a child and other children see this incident, it's horrifying. And it doesn't have to happen. And so ICE really does need to be held accountable. What we keep hearing from the president, and I've asked Secretary Rollins, Department of Agriculture, Secretary, how are you prioritizing people? Because what I've heard from President Trump is that he wants convicted criminals out of this country. I do too. We share that goal. That's not what's happening here, right? He's taking people who are hardworking, rounding them up, and scaring others.
Well, if these workers are undocumented, should they not be deported, or should there be a way to make it work?
Well, I would love to see a way to make it work. And, you know, I've been calling for what are the ways that we can keep people in their country. We don't have orderly migration. We have to admit that, right? We do not have, our borders are not a place where people can just come into this country. It's not orderly. We can't keep track of them. And we don't have the administration or the immigration system right now to keep track of them. So it's tough. So we need additional resources, but we need to figure out how do you get rewarded by staying in your country, doing the right thing, and then coming over. But we already know that we have 11 million people here who are undocumented and working in the United States. 60% of those are in the agriculture industry. This would devastate U.S. agriculture, not just in Oregon, across the United States, in the heartland, everywhere, if we were to remove all of those workers. We do not have the workers to replace them.
Is there anything that can be done on the congressional level in order to deal with this issue?
Oh, 100%. Yes, we absolutely, Republicans, Democrats, any independents out there, we have to come together and do two things, right? We have to admit that migration is not working for us, right? How do we fix that? How do we make sure that people who want to come here and work and make a life can do so? We also have to fix what's happening right now. Some people have been here 10, 20, 30, 40 years and still have not met with their immigration attorney and gotten the path to citizenship that they've been promised. So we need to deal with those two things. We also need to keep the criminal element out of the United States. That is also important. We know that fentanyl is still coming across our borders and that drugs are still in the Willamette Valley, and it's harming our communities. We can do both, and we should be doing both, and Congress can get there.
You're on the House Agriculture Committee, and we're working under an extension of the Farm Bill that expired in 2023. The reconciliation bill does include more money for promoting agriculture. Is that enough, or do we need a new Farm Bill?
It's not enough, Ken. What's sad about what happened in this reconciliation package is that There were some crops who really were the bigger winners, right, in terms of price supports, in terms of what we typically see in a larger farm bill, right? So some of our Midwest crops, they're winners in this reconciliation package. Our specialty crops here in Oregon weren't part of it. And we do need a larger farm bill to make sure that all of our crops have access to different markets, including foreign market access, especially right now when we're seeing things with tariffs playing a big role in preventing our growers from being able to export to foreign markets. So yes, we need something bigger. It's going to be very hard, though, because of what Republicans did on the nutrition side.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You've been very vocal about the anticipated cuts to SNAP and food assistance benefits under the president's bill. What impact is that having in your district now, and what impact do you think it will have?
So even prior to these discussions around cutting $300 billion from the SNAP program, which is huge, we understood that some of our food banks and our pantries were seeing an uptick of about 30% over COVID of need. And right now, we are continuing to see that, right? Housing is really expensive here in Oregon. People are having to decide, do I pay my rent or do I buy food? Do I eat food for myself or do I get food for my kids? These are hard decisions that families actually should not have to be making right now, but they are. And these are people who are actually working, which tells me that wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. Congress can be doing so much on this front, including just, increasing the minimum wage. But what we are going to see is people are going to be hungrier, poorer, and less healthy with this reconciliation package.
You've held a number of town halls recently. What are you hearing from your constituents now?
They're scared. Senator Wyden and I actually just held a town hall last night in Monmouth, and people are scared and they're frustrated and they're angry over what they're seeing happening with their neighbors, and whether it's the inability to get ahead and to make a life and to see opportunity. I keep saying Trump is picking winners and losers. That's not a capitalist system. That's not a democratic system. One person cannot be making those decisions. We have a co-equal branch of government. Congress needs to be part of this equation here. We are that co-equal branch of government. And right now, Republicans are capitulating and allowing Trump to dictate the terms of our future. And he is taking away opportunity. That is the American dream. To put opportunity in front of me, let me work hard and get ahead. But right now, he's preventing that from happening, and my constituents are seeing it. And constituents across the nation are seeing this.
The president has also signed an order to fast-track logging on federal land while also cutting staff at the U.S. Forest Service. How is that playing out in your district, or going to play out in your district?
So, as you may know, Ken, I serve on the House Ag Committee, and I'm actually the ranking member on the Forestry Subcommittee. So I have introduced a bill. It's bicameral. So we have some senators who have introduced a similar bill on their side, which basically says, no, actually, you can't go into some of our more pristine federal forests and just start building roads and clear cutting. And this really has not been an issue, I think, for a lot of those in the timber industry. I think what Trump is going after, though, really is the Tongass National Forest. It's our largest federal forest. He wants to see what he can extract in terms of oil and other natural resources. It's unnecessary. We have a climate crisis. We have to make sure that we are protecting habitat and conserving where we need to, right? We are seeing more droughts. We are seeing, this atmospheric river that's coming to Oregon in the middle of August, right? These things are being driven by climate. So we need to make sure that we are protecting our forests and making sure that we are preventing wildfires in the first place. He has disinvested in the U.S. Forest Service. We heard it this morning on one of the local news stations here that, wildland firefighters were being taken off. I think he cut the U.S. Forest Service by 50%. This was something I was pushing for in that reconciliation package, because we can go in and start to remove the fuel and the underbrush to prevent those fires, do prescribed burns. There are things that we should be doing to prevent and mitigate those wildfires, and what he is talking about is suppression. We cannot rely just on suppression. We are not going to be able to get our arms around this wildfire crisis.
Congresswoman Andrea Salinas, thank you very much for coming back to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you for having me.